Hey guys, welcome to another live session on Instagram. And today I've been lucky enough to go live with a person who will inspire many of the women who want to be pilots or who are already pilots. Uh, hi to everyone. So I'll just invite her. Most of you know who it is, so I'll just invite her. Here we go. So hey, hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Same here. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm at home, like most of us.
Yeah, it's same here.
Yeah, and you?
Not much of flying. No, we have been flying. We have been
You're
flying.
still flying, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
we
flying
have
for the
been.
government, I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So we have
that's
been flying quite a bit, but not as much as before.
no, of
Yeah,
course.
we miss flying though. What about
Y-
you? How's
Uh,
everything going on there?
yeah, it's going fine, but I my last flight was almost 2 months ago, mid-March, and
All right.
that's a long time on the ground. So
So
yeah, I
you'll have to
guess it's
do recency flights and stuff, right?
sorry.
After you'll have to do a recency flight or something after.
Well, they are expanding the routes a little bit here. So our recurrent flights, we can push it a little bit longer before we have to do it. But for the moment, I don't even have a date when my next flight is. So I guess as soon as we start flying again, we will have recurrence planned, obviously, but I have no idea when that would be.
So hey guys, most of you already know her. She has a lot of Indian followers. Most of you are fans of her. So could you kindly introduce yourself
Yeah,
to our?
absolutely. Hi, everybody. Yeah, Susanna is my name, Susie on Instagram, and I started to study to become a pilot almost 20 years ago, 2001. It's already a long time. And I've been a commercial pilot for a little bit more than 10 years, 30 years since 2007. I've also been a flight instructor. And for the moment, I'm flying in Europe. I'm Swedish, but I live in Belgium and I fly for the Belgian company Brussels Airlines on the Airbus 320 on medium haul.
All right, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it
So
is.
in my case, I'm a helicopter pilot. I'm mostly based in India. I don't have as much as experience as you do, but I've been flying since the last 5 years. A lot of medical evacuations, hill flying. Like we do all sorts of things here in India, starting from VIP flying to medevacs, everything.
Yeah.
So right now, the kind of flying which we are doing is mostly dropping medical supplies as well as maintenance flights. That's all we are doing right now. We are
Right.
not allowed to carry passengers as per the DGCA.
And how is the corona situation in India? Is it a lockdown for you guys or?
Yeah, it's locked down. We cannot. There are a lot of rules. We cannot
Yeah.
really step out like before. But yeah, the airspace is empty. We've been
Of
flying
course.
quite a bit, and the airspace is totally empty. I've never seen the airspace so empty. Not a single call. We are the
No.
only ones up there.
Are there any airlines still flying?
Yeah, I've been hearing calls from Emirates and
Yeah.
a few airlines like that who are operating cargo mostly,
Yeah, of
and
course.
our national carrier, which is Air India, they are doing some evacuation flights from a few countries.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a good one, but most of us are waiting for the full-fledged flying to start.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah. So
Uh,
let's get on to it. Let's
yeah.
like we have a few questions which your followers and my followers have sent, and they're mostly for you. And mostly my followers want to know about you because in India, uh, the number of women pilots are quite less.
Yeah.
So they want to know a lot about your journey, about how you did it. So there are a few questions which. So the first question is, how did you start your journey, and what motivated you and inspired you to take up aviation?
All right, that's a good question. I what inspired me, I'm not sure honestly, because I wanted to become a pilot since I was very young. And I don't know, maybe it's some influence from my brother and watching Star Wars and playing with small airplanes. I don't know, but I already very early, I was really fascinated by aviation and airplanes. And I had that as my little secret dream. I never told anybody, but I just knew what I wanted to do. And I didn't do anything about it until I was 17, 18 years old. Then I went to the student counselor or student advisor at our high school. And I just asked him, because that was about the time I had to pick university. So I asked him, is there any university where you can become a pilot, or how do I do? And he was really negative. He told me it was a really bad idea. I don't know why, because I had good grades. I was a good student. But at least he gave me the phone number and the address to the school. And I just called them and I asked, how do I proceed? What do I do? And the woman who picked up the phone, she was super, super positive. She was very friendly, and she just sent me all the information I needed to know. And this school was the one I wanted to go to, of course, because it's paid by the government and by the university. So as we all know, pilot education is really expensive, and this was the only school I could choose where I wouldn't have to pay for the education. So I really wanted to get in there, and I got the address, and they also told me that they wouldn't be needing any pilots, or they wouldn't do any courses for quite some time. So I immediately started looking for my plan B, which was, if I wouldn't be accepted to that flight school, I would take my private license and continue to study engineering.
And do it in steps, right? Do it in steps as you go. Do it in steps. You would have done it in steps otherwise, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or just be happy to have a private license, just to fly for fun and do something else for a living.
But you would still get a license, right? You would still fly.
Yeah, one way or another. And one of the first things I did was to go to a flight club to book a lesson, just to see if I enjoy it. You know, it might be completely different, but I really did. It was so much fun. So I was perfectly convinced I need a pilot license. But I was lucky, and I had to do a lot of tests and interviews, and it took a long time. But 3 years later, they called me, and they asked if I was willing to start that school. And during this time, I had already done 1 year of the engineering in the university. So I could just stop my studies. I didn't have to take my private license. And I just went to the flight school. And in 2002, I had my commercial license to start working. But it's a nice story. I didn't have to spend a lot of money, and it went really well. But it was a very difficult time to be a newly graduated pilot, and I had to wait until 2007 until I got my first job on a commercial jet.
So how long did you have to wait to get this?
5 years. 5 years between my graduation and before I could actually start flying. But during that time...
That's because you were doing your graduation, right? Otherwise, you would have got it earlier?
No, the flights is just scheduled like the way in flight school. That was just planned like that. And we already had an employer, which would normally be Scandinavian Airlines. But due to the 9/11 and other factors, the economy was really bad those years. None of us got a job. And I actually went back to flight school to become a flight instructor. So I did flight instructing on small clubs, and I worked at the flight operations. And I was already working within aviation when I got my correct contacts and could get my first job, and type rating, of course.
That is pretty nice. That is pretty. But in my case, like I'm lucky enough that the day I got my license, my dad's also into aviation, so of course he helped me as well. The day I got my license, I was employed the next day.
Wow, yeah, that's
I was very lucky. I mean, I think I was just made for this.
Yeah.
The next day, yeah.
That's really, as I get a lot of questions especially from people who are a bit older, 30 something, they ask, can I join aviation? Is it too late? But if you're lucky, if you have good timing, like in your case, no problem. And in my case, I had bad timing. I had to wait quite some time.
I think we also have to assess the market before we get into it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If we are very careful and if we are planned well, I think we'll get a job.
I think so too. Absolutely.
Yeah. And our one of our pilots from Indigo, Captain Gur GPS, his handle is GPS, Captain GPS.
Yeah.
He just gave me one small note saying that India still has the maximum number of female pilots in the world.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but when you consider it to a population, it's still, the percentage is still less.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, we are in the attempts to bring in more female pilots. So let's get on to our next question.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what are some of the misconceptions people have about women in aviation?
Well, I think for me in Europe, there are not a lot of those misconceptions because I'm born in an extremely gender equal country.
Yeah.
Where we think that any man or woman can do the same. You can be whatever you want. But I understand, of course, in other parts of the world, it may be not that obvious. I don't know, maybe, I think for me, the biggest and the one is a bit true that it can be a bit difficult to be away from home if you're a mother, if you have kids. Before that, I never saw any difference between me and male pilots. Not at all. And during training, nothing.
How often are you home? How often are you back home?
We fly really a very flexible schedule. We can have up to 10, 11, 12 layovers in 1 month. And sometimes you can have them in a row. So you're away for 2 nights, you're home. And then the next day you have to be away for another 2 nights. So in the beginning, when I started flying, my daughter, she was only 7 months old, and I didn't see her for 6 days and only a few hours in between. And that was, it was difficult. And I think that's difficult for fathers as well, for male pilots as well. But for me, that was the biggest thing. If I would ever advise somebody not to do it, is that you have to be away a lot from your family.
But still, I mean, I think flying takes over all those things, I guess.
Yeah.
Flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
like now, for example, I'm home full time for 2 months, and I really enjoy the time with my family, but I miss flying a lot as well. And I do miss the layovers too.
So let's, like, I cannot see any questions coming up. So I would go on to the next question.
Yeah.
And I think there's something coming up on your screen, which I know someone is commenting, but we'll still go on with our question.
We can scroll those afterwards as well. And if I know somebody asked the same questions a few times, we will get to it.
So let's get on with another question. It's someone had asked me. So what fascinates you most about aviation?
Well, the most is the aircraft itself. Yeah, that's what we all have in common, that we're super fascinated by flying and the aircraft. But also for me, the chance to travel, to see different parts of the world that I wouldn't see if I wouldn't be a pilot. And the flying part, of course, and also that you have to stay sharp your entire career. You need to study, you need to learn new things all the time. It's always challenging, and it's a lot of variation. That I think is super fascinating. No flight, the same.
It's a very dynamic, right? It's a very dynamic and changing.
Very dynamic, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what fascinates all of us.
Yeah,
and
so.
Most of it is about the rush. Like, we are all in for the rush, right?
Yeah, we are.
So again, let's go on to the next question. So, of course, in Europe, it's not a male-dominant working environment. But what have you faced any challenges when it comes to
Not really.
Not really.
No, not really. I always been very, very well taken care of in aviation. And I think both in flight school, I was the only female student. There was no female flight instructors. There was a cleaning lady and a secretary. There were women, the rest were all men. But I was very well taken care of by my teachers and my co-students. And same when you start working for an airline. I never had any problems. Maybe you get more attention sometimes, maybe from the passengers when they see there is a female pilot, or maybe two ladies at the front of the plane, but it's always positive reactions. That's why I can only recommend this. I also know, okay, maybe in some parts of the world it can be a bit difficult, because I know in some countries women are not even allowed to drive a car. Then of course it might be difficult to fly an airplane. But in general, in this part of the world, we're just very, very,
And
encouraged.
it's the same in US as well. Like I've come across many US pilots who are like, even in my school when I was in the US, uh, there were I think two female pilots, and they were treated very well. And I think that should inspire more of our Indian pilots who are women to go
Yeah, I
for
think
training.
so. I think people are, I think they're often their own, how to say, they're the most resistant themselves. If they start thinking about, maybe I will have negative comments, maybe my parents won't like it, maybe this will be difficult. That's something that might
Yeah,
not happen.
it might be difficult, but nothing beats flying. Nothing beats
No,
the freedom it gives
as you
you.
say, it is difficult. It's not an easy job. As you say, you have to be away a lot. You have to study. It's a lot of hard work, actually, and it's I don't say it's not for everybody, but
But it pays well. It pays well in the end,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it does.
So again, going on to the next question. So, how do you balance your personal life and your work life? How do you do that between all these
Yeah,
layovers?
it's not easy, but we do it since my boyfriend is also a pilot, and our daughter, she's only 2. And sometimes we both have to fly. Sometimes we fly together as well, but we are away at the same time. If you're planning to have a family, you really need to have a good supportive family, first of all. And if you have kids, you need a good nanny or au pair or babysitter or grandmother who can help you take care of your children, of course, when you're away. And also the social life can be a little bit challenging, because family events, you cannot always attend to family
Yeah,
dinners.
most of the time we are not available. Most of the times we are not able to attend.
Yeah,
Most of the right. So,
yeah, it is like that. So it's a challenge, and everybody in my surrounding, they know that, okay, Susanna cannot always join us because she might be flying, she might be somewhere, but people understand it, and you just have to plan a little bit. And if you know something is going on, you have to request that day, that maybe that day you can stay at home or land early. It's not impossible, but it takes a little bit of work.
and what mostly happens to me is when I'm back from flying, most of my friends are busy at that point of time. When I'm available, they are busy, and when they are busy, I'm available. So most of us, uh, we cannot meet up, and our social thing goes for a toss. So I think the internet connection has gone for a 6. So we are waiting for Susanna to come back. Internet connection is. There's one thing which I wanted to address, that many people have asked me that what is the guarantee? What is the guarantee that after spending so much money, we know that we'll have to spend a lot of money. Wait, again, she's coming live. Okay, I've added her again. Again, waiting for her. So as we wait, I want to talk about.
I'm back. I had a bad
Yeah.
connection, it said, and it kicked me out.
Right. So I was actually like back when you were gone, just to keep the conversation going. So I wanted to tell people there are a lot of questions which I get in which they ask me, you spend a lot of money, and at the end of it, what is the guarantee that you will get a job? So what I generally tell people is, in most of the fields, there's no guarantee that
No,
let's
no,
be
no,
engineer, guarantee.
no.
So
There, of course not. No.
yeah, but then they say that in most of the fields you're not paying so much, right? You're not spending so much. So what I say is, when you're paying so high, when your investment is so high, the returns are also high, right? So that really compensates for it. Not for most of us, but yeah, it compensates for that difference.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the questions.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is probably the last questions, and then we take up a few questions from our comments. So the last thing is, what do you want to tell the young men and women, mostly women in your case, because there are more like Indian pilot aspirants who are women are very fascinated by you. So what would you like to tell them, or how would you like to aspire, like inspire them to take up aviation?
Yeah. First of all, of course, they want to think a little bit critically. Is this really what I want to do? They have to know that you have to be away from your family. You have to study very hard. It can be expensive. But if you think about that and still, yeah, no, I don't care. I want to be a pilot. Then you have to maybe go to airport, flight club, flight school to talk to the instructors there or other students or anybody you can contact to ask a little bit details about the job. And then you have to think, what's stopping you? Is it money wise? Yeah, it's difficult. I get a lot of questions from people. How can I afford a pilot education? And usually people take a bank loan, or your parents can help you, or you can do it step by step, or via the government in your case. Yeah, it's not
In
easy.
India, in India, there's also an option for the military.
Yeah, yeah,
So
as well. Yeah.
yeah, even that's a very good option, which both all the army, aviation, army, navy, and the air force, they all give you options to fly.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
in case of women in our country, they give you an option. Air Force gives you an option after graduation. So
Yeah,
through an exam called as FCAT. So for all you out there, all of you out there, there are options.
yeah,
You just have to
absolutely.
look into it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. And if somebody else, if they're worried what their family is going to think, or if their family life will be suffering, if it's difficult to be a mother and have kids and fly, it is, but it's not that hard. It's possible. So,
You can still manage it, right? You can
yeah,
still,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
it is.
so there's one question. Now we'll take questions. All my questions which I had are over. So there's one question from the comments which I would like to take.
Yeah.
So people have been asking me which is the best flying school. They mostly ask in the world or in India. What would you suggest?
Oh, for me, it's super difficult because the flight school I went to was the one from the Swedish university and Swedish government. And I think that's only, I'm not sure, only for Scandinavian or Scandinavian speaking people. And in my opinion, that was the best one. That was the one I wanted to go to because all the instructors were from the Air Force. The plane was the old plane, the trainers that they flew the propellers in the Air Force as well. And we did a lot of amazing training, formation flights, aerobatics, and we even got a chance to fly helicopter. So that's the only school I really know. And I know things change as well. When I did my trainings a long time ago. So
But what I
I
really
cannot
say
give a
is
good answer.
there's no best, right? Like when it comes to a flying school, there's nothing called as the best.
No,
So
and I
there are a
don't
lot of
think
factors.
that
Yeah,
as well. I don't think the employer, the airlines, they're not looking at which school you went to. They're looking at your license. You passed your
yeah,
license, you have this. That's all they want to know. Unless they have their own flight school, of course. Sometimes, like if you go
yeah.
to
The
Emirates
cabin
flight
crew.
school, you can start flying for Emirates after all. That's also
Yeah.
an option. But otherwise, they don't really care where you did your training. You have to look money-wise. There are big difference in cost as well between the different schools.
Yeah, and many people ask this question as well. What would you prefer between a cadet program and a conventional normal? You get your CPL through a flying school on your own. What would you suggest?
Well, I think the cadet program is great if you can do it. To do it in modules, to do it step by step, can be nicer financially because you can have some time to get more money and pay it step by step. If you do have the money, I would do it all in once as quickly as possible, to be honest, if you can.
Yeah, but like what I normally say is the cadet program costs almost double of.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you talk about job guarantee, if you're paying so much money more just for job guarantee, I don't think it's worth it.
No, because yeah, you need to, those money needs to be paid, and yeah, it depends. It's also maybe in India, I know in Scandinavia and Europe, it can differ a lot between the costs. And I know most people here who it doesn't have the money, they do take a bank loan and they do it in once everything, but the cost is around 100,000 euros, which is super expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot.
even like in Europe also, it is quite expensive, almost double as that of US, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
And India, yeah, I mean India and US, the cost is the same, but Europe is totally up the roof.
Yeah,
So
but most people here, they go to South Africa or to United States or somewhere else to fly to do their flight training. Not because yeah, it's a lot cheaper over there.
yeah, so nobody actually trains in the US, right? Much. Sorry, in Europe. No
Well,
one
yeah,
actually
they do, but I think those who have the opportunity
that
to do
kind
it,
of money.
of course. Yeah, yeah.
So and let's finish with the last question. What is you're a commercial pilot, and this is something which I get a lot. So what is the age limit you think should be taken into account by aspirants when
Yeah, that's a difficult one because as you said earlier, it depends a little bit of the timing of the industry. If you start your training when you're 35, for example, it's already a little bit late. But if you do your training,
So I think we have lost her again. I think her internet has again packed up. So we will end it like this, and you can always DM both of us with your questions. I'll end the session over here, and if you have any questions, please come ahead in our DMs. Thank you.